Welcome back to the Pop Chart, a pop chart discussing everything at the top of
A
our
pop
charts
chart?
in the a pop chart.
Yeah, a pop chart.
Did I just say a pop chart?
Yeah. You said, "Welcome to the pop chart," a pop chart that you
Oh,
are tired. You've
yeah.
had a day.
Here we go. Action.
Yeah.
Welcome back to the Pop Chart, a podcast discussing everything at the top of our charts in pop culture this week.
I'm your host, Brendan Toda.
And I'm gonna make him an offer he can't refuse.
Make him an offer he can refuse, huh?
Eh, I can do this because I'm Italian.
Oh, I can't do that because I'm not Italian.
It's all right. You're allowed. You're allowed because you're a movie guy.
Sure, we'll go with
S-
that. We'll go with
Speaking of
that.
movie guy, I have a question for you. Let me
Was I
start this.
recording before this? No, the video just started right now.
No, it's been recording the whole time.
My recording with the little
Oh
logo of
boy.
the
Oh
bottom,
boy.
but
Oh,
it's fine.
it's
It's
fine.
fine. We can keep all this in.
We're
Just
gonna
let it
keep this
roll.
in.
Yeah,
Um, Speaking of movie people, so
yeah.
have you heard of Taylor Swift? Do you know who she is?
I mean, she's an artist that exists. She's basically, the United States royalty at this point. She's like
Basically,
the queen if we were in England, I'd like to imagine.
I like that. Yeah, she's United States royalty. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I'm familiar.
So she's in between arguably one of the most successful live concerts in the history of music.
Hmm.
um but she also put out a movie that is currently in theaters now, which is a basically a straight concert movie,
Yeah, it's a
right?
concert film.
So it's like, hey, those aren't new, right?
Hmm.
Those have been around for a long time.
Right.
Are you at all interested in seeing this movie?
Are you asking me to go see the Eras tour with you, Easy?
I'm just
Because
asking if you are
if
at all
so,
interested in seeing this concert movie.
I mean, listen, concert movies are a great way to experience concerts when you can't necessarily make it out to the venue or can't score tickets because of that whole, ticket master of it all. Uh, but it's not maybe the same experience. It's better in some
Yeah,
ways, it's worse in others. You can see more of the artists, you get more production value, obviously, but you don't get that same sense of I don't know, being alive in the crowd, I
I mean,
guess.
live music is the epitome of uh like seeing a band live, seeing a musical act live. It does not get better than that, right? Which is
Yeah,
why I love
right.
Broadway. I
Yeah.
love concerts. It's the
Hmm.
best.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, you're right. Going to see a concert film brings some of that awesomeness to the screen, especially if
Hmm.
you're like most people on the planet Earth who didn't get a chance to see it, even though it seemed like everyone on Earth were at those concerts.
Seriously. Yeah.
Um, but the concerts have been like the concert movie has been
Hmm.
like making rounds in the news
Hmm.
cycle because of the way people are watching it.
Right.
Right, we're not Swifties,
Hmm.
right? I am interested in going and seeing this. I think it would be an interesting. I don't know her music that well, but it feels like I want to go see this.
Hmm.
But I guess the way people are enjoying the movie is what's causing a lot of like news articles to be
Right.
written,
Right. Right. Right.
because there's people who go to the movies, right? The reason we go to the movies, we sit quietly in our seat and we let the filmmakers tell us the story, right? Right at us.
Yeah. Tell
But I
me a
guess the
story.
way people and fans are watching this movie is not that, right? It's
Hmm.
like an event where people are dancing and singing and doing the songs. And I'm curious where you fall as a, on the grand scheme of like pretentious movie fan. We're not super pretentious, but we're like in the middle, I would say. Like
Yeah.
we know how to
Yeah.
enjoy things for what they are. We like those kind of arty films, but we also
Right.
love our
Right.
Marvel stuff and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
I feel like we're right in the middle.
Hmm.
Where do you feel like do you think it's okay for people to be up in the aisles singing for this particular thing?
I think the question you're really asking is how well soundproofed is your theater? Because if they're then going to interrupt another movie going experience for the sake of this concert film.
Right.
Yeah, I fall on the negative side. Don't do that.
Yeah, yeah.
But for the people who are in attendance in that same room watching the same film, like if you don't want to sing along with the concert film that you're watching, then why did you go see Taylor Swift in the theater? Like,
Yeah.
watch it at home then, man. Like,
Yeah.
isn't the whole purpose to be more social when you go out and see it in a theater, to see it on a bigger screen, to feel like you're actually there? Because I'll be honest with you, I will go with you to see this concert film, and I have no problem with anybody singing and dancing in the aisles. Like,
Yeah.
absolutely none.
I'm glad I'm glad you think that way too, because all the conversations has been, is it okay to do this in this movie, and da da da. And I'm with you 100%. I think if you're going to see this movie, that's partially why you're going,
Right.
right? To enjoy the music, sing along kind of thing. I mean, sing along movies are not a new thing either. They
No,
have
no, no,
like
yeah.
they have showings, especially like Disney does a lot of these sing along movies,
Yeah,
where
yeah.
that's what you're supposed to do. But
Hmm.
I'm of the mind that like this particular movie seems like, go do your thing, right?
Yeah.
Rocky Horror Picture Show
Right,
type
right,
thing.
right. Hmm.
Enjoy it. If people are, yeah, if I'm going to this movie, I'm thinking I may be the one sitting in the chair quietly enjoying what I'm watching, but I can't expect everyone else to do that. And I think like typical theater decorum gets chucked out the window for something like this.
Hmm.
Um, but I just heard a lot of people like, no, you cannot do that in a movie theater, period. But like AMC's like urging people to enjoy it. Taylor
Hmm.
Swift is urging her fans to like get out there and do that stuff.
Right.
And I'd say the same thing. Like as a person who likes it, like shut the hell up, everyone. I'm watching a movie. For this one, I
The,
think you get a pass.
there's a really obscure reference that rattles around in like the annals of my brain that is very specific, and I don't know anybody else who would might appreciate it. But in the early to mid 90s, there was a show on Nickelodeon called The Adventures of Pete and Pete. I'm
Yeah,
not
yeah, yeah.
sure if you're familiar with
Yes, the
the
redheaded
show.
kid.
The redheaded kids, one older, one younger, both
Yep.
named Pete for some reason.
Yeah.
Uh, they had some guy, and I don't know if it was a neighbor, a friend, a kid's dad, who was apparently perfect at everything, right? He could eat like a watermelon and like spit out all the seeds perfectly. He could build like, the most meticulous models with his hand. He could write, perfect legible chickens. The chicken, there was no chicken scratch, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah.
he was perfect at everything. And one thing that blew the kids away was that he could eat a full rack of barbecue ribs and leave the bones perfectly clean. Do you remember this episode? Does it
I
ring a
don't.
bell at all? So,
No.
like, the guy, had a napkin, and not a drop of barbecue sauce would get on the napkin. He would literally make a little, like, pattern out of the rib bones that it made a square, and, like, the guys just didn't know how to wrap their minds around it. And so they tried to practice, do it on their own. But the point at the end of the episode that they realized is that that's not how you're supposed to enjoy a rack of ribs.
Sure.
And so
Yeah.
they threw it back in his face, and he had this weird realization of like, they're right. I've been doing it wrong. I thought I was doing it perfect this whole time, and I'm doing it completely wrong. And he comes around and then starts eating it all messy, getting it all over his face,
That's great.
gets all over it. And it's just this lesson that, like, I guess for some reason has stuck with me over the years of just like, yeah, the proper way to do things may not always be the perfect or the
Perfect way.
most stoic way
Hmm.
always.
Sure.
And I don't know why it lives rent free in my memory, but it does. And that's what I would say to anybody who's thinking about going to sing and dance for Taylor Swift. I mean, like, are you really going to be like,
Yeah, and I
yes,
think
yes, I enjoyed that song.
right, right. And I
Perfect.
think the adage of like, hey, there's no wrong way to enjoy this. Like, yes, in my head there is, right? In most movie theaters, if we're
You're
just going to see
wrong.
a movie, there is a way to enjoy this, and it's silence. Like,
Right. Right.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear your phone. I don't want to see your
Right.
screen, right? If collectively we're gasping or laughing or anything,
Right.
that's fine. I think there
Right.
is an absolute right way to watch a movie, but I think in this case, you kind of just like forego those rules. But I will say, I think you hit a good point. If I'm watching Oppenheimer
Mm-hmm.
next door
Mm-hmm.
and I'm hearing, Cruel Summer next to me, I'm probably gonna go, well, hold on a second. We need to do some better
We need to
soundproofing.
talk about the programming schedule at the theater here, AMC. I mean, like,
Yeah,
who planned this out?
yeah.
But yeah,
Well,
soundproofing
good
the
good
room
to know
too.
that's what you think, and if we end up going, that
Well,
I
there's
don't know
no
any of
if
these
about it
songs, so
now.
I
I
won't be
didn't know you
dancing
were
or
even
singing.
interested. So,
It's just like, I'm certainly interested in seeing the movie, because it's, at the end of the day, it's still a movie, and that's
mhm.
interesting. Um, but yeah, that seems to be like a lot of the chatter about this movie is about that. So
Well,
I
okay.
wanted to.
So here, not necessarily related to this though, but like, I just bought a pre-purchased our tickets to go see the Marvels next month, November 10th. It's a Veterans Day, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
And do the tickets not on AMC A list. I'm just a regular common person now, you know. Uh like $25 each, plus, popcorn or whatever you have. We're going to one of those dine-ins as well where they can bring you food, so you
Yeah.
pre-order food. Yeah, but like just for the two of us, like $100 for
Yeah.
one night for one movie. And it's not even a movie that I'm particularly like amped about.
Right.
I'm excited. It's a Marvel
Sure.
movie. We haven't had a new one since Guardians 3. Let's go. But man, that's a lot of money. And like, who is anyone to tell me how I should enjoy that movie after spending that amount of money on a single night with my wife?
That's very true.
Like, I work. Everybody works hard for
We
their
work
money,
hard, man.
right? So I mean, like that. Get bent or whatever they want to say.
So, well, I guess that then we can look forward to talking about Marvels on the podcast here in the coming weeks. We could also look forward to, I've got my tickets to see Killers of the Flower Moon this
Yep.
weekend, the North
Yep.
Scorsese movie, which is arguably my most anticipated movie of the year this year.
Cool.
So you look forward to seeing that. What do you got? You got anything?
Yes, I do. And for this, we're gonna do a good old share screen for a change.
Oh,
So
look at us get technologically
let's
advanced
do.
here.
Yes, sir. So this is something that just got announced from Elgato, which, if you're familiar, they are the guys who do the Stream Deck, right?
Oh God, yes, I've heard of
Um,
the Stream Deck
and
before.
and
Yeesh.
so they're doing something that could be changing the game for streamers, content creators, and
Oh, look at that,
yeah,
a
it's
prompter.
literally a teleprompter, but the reason why it's unlike other teleprompters that perhaps have been on the market before, uh, it's priced at in such a way that it's more accessible to people, where it's not just like a one-use type of thing. It
Sure.
has a whole second screen that when you plug it into your computer acts as not essentially, it's exactly a second monitor. And they built in some software so that if you are doing, say, like chat from Twitch, that it's integrated directly. So you can put anything and everything on there. And
Oh, interesting. Yeah, instead of just text on screen, you can
mhm,
put something that you're watching. So
right.
you're essentially looking right at the content with a
Hmm.
camera built in right behind that screen. So you're
Right.
looking in camera and watching content at the same time, or commenting on whatever the case may be. That is
Right.
interesting.
But even more interesting is it doesn't work with just Elgato's own camera. You can use your own camera with even like
Oh, I love
lenses
it. I love
and
the sandbox. Thank you
right.
for letting people play in it, Elgato.
And you could even do some with attached lenses. You can do your iPhone, but like, a lot of people don't like to
Nice.
do that. So just the amount of choices and flexibility in this make it seem like it could be a big game changer for a lot of people who do content, even kind of like what we're doing right here,
Yeah,
right?
look at that. With
um
iPhone. Just like I'm using my iPhone 13 Pro Max as my
right,
continuity camera, because it's arguably the best camera that I have access to. That's not, my ZV-1.
right.
Um, and that's nice that you can just plop that sucker in there too.
Yeah, and it's a good size, but my guess, and I was watching this guy's video as well. is that they're probably going to see how well this does, and then depending on how it sells and the adoption rate and what they learn from it, I'm sure they're going to probably do a larger sized one that maybe is like, the Prompter XL. But one of the
Mhm.
things that he was mentioning is that if more people use this, it looks like this, right? Where he's
Yes.
looking straight at the camera. And this is not only good for content creation, but also for like Zoom meetings and whatnot. So you do feel like you're sitting across the table from someone.
Well,
And
I'll tell you that I have tried. I'm sure if anyone's watching closely are these video versions, is my camera angle changes just about every day. Um
yeah,
because I am
right,
trying to get the angle in which I feel like I'm doing a better job looking into the camera. The only problem with that is what I really want to do is look at you,
right,
right?
right.
Because that's we're getting honest reactions from each other. So I'm looking at you, but I'm trying to put my camera in a way that is like basically blocking my computer screen, and
Mm-hmm.
you're kind of right off the corner of the lens, so you get closer and closer to my camera moves constantly. Well, but then the angles are not so great straight on. I don't look that great. Like give me that
Yeah.
classic like selfie high angle for a reason.
yeah.
um so that
Helps with
would
the
be
chins.
ideal. Yeah, exactly, that would be ideal because I
Yeah.
could actually put you on that screen,
Mm-hmm.
look at you, react to
Right.
you while
Correct.
it's catching me. And I do like the eye contact there when, especially when I'm watching other creators. It's like, oh, look, they're speaking right to me instead of just slightly off camera.
Exactly. So I feel like I already
Pretty cool.
know what I need to get you for Christmas and what you need to get me is
Right?
what
We're
we're
just
saying.
exchange gifts. Here you go.
I bought this one for you. What did you get me? Oh, oh
Oh, look at
wow.
this. What a
Wow.
surprise. I had no idea.
Yeah,
How
I thought
thoughtful.
that was really cool, and it definitely like piqued or popped my interest for my pop chart this week.
Pretty cool. Very cool.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. But the thing I think that's been on both of our minds ever since, well, what, 2 weeks ago at this point
Yeah,
now, is the finale of Ahsoka. And you did a great job of putting together our honest, immediate reactions to that episode.
that's right.
Well
You can
done.
go
Well
now
done.
on youtube.com/@ the Pop Chart Podcast and watch our reactions as we reacted live to that episode.
Yeah, it
We're a
was fun.
React channel apparently now.
we're,
Um
we're
uh
dipping our toes in. We're getting started.
yeah, you know what? I think I like the way it turned out. But there are definitely some things, that was just our immediate reactions to what was happening on camera. We have not done like kind of like a postmortem of that show to talk about
Right.
our thoughts as a whole. You can listen and watch all our back episodes where we covered all of Ahsoka. The first, one episode was the first three episodes, the other one was the second three, and then this will essentially serve as the last two plus a whole wrap up. Um, in general, I think this is maybe my second favorite Star Wars show on Disney Plus, but
Mm-hmm.
it's neck and neck with Andor.
Mm-hmm.
You know where I stand, that Rogue One is my favorite Star Wars movie of all time, and
Right.
Andor kind of playing off of that, and being so well done, just an incredible quality piece of work that kind of dealt with the more human aspect of the 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 empire's reign over people.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first show that really made me afraid of the empire, right? You're always meant to be afraid of the empire and the evil dark lords of the Sith and all that stuff, but
Right.
the empire as a body felt always felt very scary in Andor. And I think I was like very much enjoying Star Wars content that didn't have to do with all the laser swords and all that stuff. But Ahsoka brought that back, and it made me feel like, okay, it made me feel like Star Wars was truly special again, in the big grandiose way that Star Wars is supposed to make you feel happy and exciting and all that
yeah.
stuff. And so um I do have some thoughts that didn't like blow my mind. Like I said, Thrawn is my favorite Star Wars character. I've read all the Timothy Zahn books.
Mm-hmm.
and I highly, highly recommend. I mean, Heir to the Empire is the story that it seems like this is telling, but
Right.
I would really recommend his new trilogy that does delve into the relationship that Thrawn and Anakin and Thrawn and Vader have, which
Mm-hmm.
also touched upon this in this show. I am excited to get more Thrawn. I don't know if I got Thrawn at his full Thronness. Um,
Your royal thronness.
yes. Um, that character is just like a complete and utter badass, and I don't think we got to see that quite yet, and that's okay.
Mm-hmm.
I think if they're holding out, some, I mean, he does get the upper hand, which he often did.
Mm-hmm.
At the end of the show, he's definitely in a better position than anyone else is.
Right.
So that's certainly a Thrawn thing. I don't think we got to see how truly awesome he is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think Ahsoka, I think Rosario Dawson does just a phenomenal job playing this character. I really, really like where the Sabine Wren Ahsoka Tano relationship is going, and I think the actor who plays Sabine Wren is so good.
Mm-hmm.
And even in, she kind of takes on the main character for a little bit of time,
Mm-hmm.
which is interesting. Show's called Ahsoka, and there's some Ahsoka-less episodes, but
Right.
I think they spend enough time with our characters to introduce them for the first time to people who didn't watch Clone Wars or Rebels, but spends just enough time for people who like, yeah, I know exactly who these people are, just to kind of build a little bit. Um, I will say my one nitpick for the finale specifically. Now I watched it on a computer, right, to do our thing, which I never
Mm-hmm.
do. Right,
Right. Right.
I bought a TV to watch these things on.
Yeah.
So if you watch the reaction video, I wasn't super convinced of where Balin's skull was in that moment. It wasn't
Mm-hmm.
until after you sent me a screen grab of it, because I couldn't tell what he was standing on, and I was just like, oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I think you mentioned it. You're like, oh, that's the father and the son, and I was like, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, because I
Mm-hmm.
didn't see it, and then of course you see it, and it's just like, nope, those are the Mortis gods from
Mm-hmm.
Clone Wars,
Mm-hmm.
and seasons of, and a couple episodes of Rebels that are so important to the Force in general. How, you know, it's weird that I didn't pick up on it, even though I know who those characters are very well.
Mm-hmm.
You seem to pick up on it, but you haven't really experienced the Mortis gods. Did that moment fall flat for you? Like you didn't know, like what is this? What am I looking at?
Well, I think in that moment in particular, the staging of it, like the way that they presented everything, like even not knowing what they mean to the Force or to Jedi or to the greater galaxy, it's clear that they have some sort of significance, and Balin's goal is doing something involving them. And since it is basically a tease and not really like deliberately setting up in terms of like, hey, I walked in and I spoke to somebody, and then it's a cliffhanger. This is more of just like, here's where he's probably going next. And so it's like,
Yeah,
okay, I'm interested. I liked the character. I'd like to see where he goes. So that was enough for me. But if somebody were to say, hey, check out these episodes of Clone Wars and Rebels just to get more context, I've already started doing that. I've started to go through
nice.
like the Disney Plus Essential Ahsoka Tano
Yeah, great.
episodes, because one of my colleagues said that that's actually a pretty well curated list
It
where
is.
it
It's
does
great.
give you a good amount. I was like, cool, because like legit, I can't make it through every episode of Clone Wars. I have a baby to raise. I just
It's
I
fine. You
I
don't
don't
need to watch
I
everyone.
don't think I need to watch all of
No,
this.
you don't.
I'll watch some of it, but
Yeah.
yeah. So yeah, that's what I took away from that. The other thing that I was going to say, having sat with it for about 2 weeks now, for sure, I really enjoyed the series. Like it was probably the more I'll go with more satisfying series out of all of them,
Yeah.
because like we've talked previously, and we didn't have the podcast at the time, but yeah, Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't really do it for me, and I was really looking forward to
Hmm.
that series. Even with, again, this is full spoiler talk for I guess all of the series, but Qui-Gon showing up at the end, it was just kind of like, that's awesome. Why wasn't he in the more of the show?
Right.
Did you get him
Right.
for just a day? Like, I would have
Yeah.
loved that, right? Like imagine that series with Qui-Gon coming in at, like, I don't know, end of episode 1, kind of like first season Mandalorian, where the child comes in almost right away.
Yeah.
And like it's Obi-Wan with his master and like trying to reconcile with this and just get rid of the Leia. So I guess I'm doing my own fanfic rewrite at this point. But those sort of feelings were completely absent from my enjoyment of the series. And while it
Hmm.
wasn't the perfect series, I was along for the ride.
Mm.
I had a good time with the ups and the downs. I loved getting to know these characters, getting to know Ahsoka even better than I already thought that I knew her, even not going through all of the Clone Wars and Rebel stuff. And then just again seeing some of the discourse. That's why I think it's almost better that we don't chime in right away. It's nice to kind of see how
Hmm.
everyone else what their take on it is, and then like see what I can add to the conversation. Some of the things that came up were the things that we talked about. Um, how what does this do for non-rebels and Clone Wars fans? Because this is a lot of fan service, and I was like, well, as one of those people, I can tell you that that didn't seem to really matter.
Yeah.
It's a good story told well, and for most media, that's all I'm really there for. Just tell me a good story and tell it well. And it's just Star Wars used to be known for doing that all the time consistently. And through the years, Disney notwithstanding, that has not always been the case.
Hmm.
So um I think that's what's refreshing about this is that with any project, if the good can outweigh the bad for you, then it's usually you remember it more fondly. And that's
Oh, for
how
sure.
I'm choosing to remember this series. There were a lot more highs than there were lows for me. And sure, certain characters didn't go anywhere. And sure, the main character that is named after doesn't really have a huge arc of her own, but it was
Yeah, you're
fun.
right. Yeah.
But it was fun. So some of those criticisms I would like to specifically address with you as someone who seemed like you had a bit more insight. So um did you feel that at the end, speaking of Balin Skull and Shinhati, that they just kind of forgot about them at the end, and there was just more of a hand wave? Oh shoot, we forgot to wrap up their stories. Here's what they're gonna do, and we'll see you later. Don't know where that's gonna be, but we'll see you later.
Yeah, I do. I mean, I think in the reaction, obviously there were so much incredible things happening as we were intercutting between what was happening over here and what was happening over here. Lightsaber battles that looked phenomenal and all this stuff. I think I said, "Oh, I forgot about these two." I completely
Yeah,
forgot about these two.
that's
Um,
right.
but then when they, I'm curious where this is going.
Yeah.
I do think they kind of shoehorn them at the end, being like, "Oh, wait, we have to let the audience know like these two are here, and we are still tracing very unique trajectories for them." Like what
Mhm.
Has seen, like she's had like a crisis of confidence between her and her master. Is
Right.
like, okay, yep, we're going in different paths. What does that mean for her? She had a moment with Ahsoka and our rebel crew to be like, I'll help you. Like you can be great again if you want to. And she was like, I'm out.
Yeah.
Um, and then Balin's thing with finding the Mortis gods, that's obviously what was drawing him and calling him to Peridia. But he seems like he wants to blow up the whole thing, right? Like
Mhm.
he's trying to maybe get to the Mortis gods to like kill them all, or like just wreck the Force in general, because he's kind of in that way, which is like the rise and fall of all of these groups of power. He was sick of it, and he
Mhm.
wanted to end it all.
Yeah.
um that's it. That is super interesting. I'm really, really very sad that Ray Stevenson won't be the one who gets to
Oh my
show us
god.
that,
Yeah,
because
what a tragedy.
if we take one thing away from this show, is that Ray Stevenson is phenomenal as Balin Skull in a Star Wars. Like, God, he was built to be in Star Wars anything. And it's devastating that I'm glad we have it.
Yeah.
It's here with us forever. um I hope they tell that story, um and they don't say like, hey, we lost Ray, we're not going to tell that story anymore, because I think it
Oh, I think
seems
they
like
will.
it's going to be a huge plot point potentially.
Yeah.
um of him does he find the Mortis gods? What does that look like? Because as for people who don't know, the daughter who represents the light side of the Force is actually in Ahsoka Tano. That's why Ahsoka is alive right now, because the daughter gave her life for that. That's why on that arm that he's standing on, those big rock formations, you see the father and you see the son, but you don't see the head of the daughter. That I assume that's, a visual cue for you that she's dead. So I'm very curious to see where they end up, but I do think that they're kind of like, oh, forgot about these folks, and they kind of like ventured off very like anticlimactic. Like their things were
Sure.
just very just like they just petered out, and it's like we'll get back to them. Don't worry about it. Just remember them that they're here.
So, okay, another criticism that I saw then, if that's how you feel about Balin and Shinhati, um, is that the whole thing that we've been more or less seeing Ahsoka in live action has been, we need to stop Grand Admiral Thrawn from returning. It's essential that we're stopping Grand Admiral Thrawn from returning. Where is Grand Admiral Thrawn? How can I stop him? I'm going to go on all of this, go through all this trouble just to stop him. Then he comes back and she's just like, I guess I live here now. This is where I'm going to hang my hat. You sure you don't want to go back and stop the one thing that you said that you've been here to stop? No, me and my apprentice, we're just going to chill here. We're kind of stuck, but
Yeah.
Just vibe with it, man.
Hey,
Just
we're just
go
going
with
with
it,
it.
dude.
Hey, we going with it. I think that that's not so much a problem for me. Like, yeah, I get the criticism 100%. It's
So
like,
it's
hey,
not
you should be like
doesn't
moving
bother you.
quickly, like
Yeah, it
now.
doesn't bother you.
I think mostly because I believe that, and this could just be like, oh my god, he what a fanboy. That like Ahsoka and Sabine know that um Ezra will meet up with Hera and they'll do what they absolutely can.
Mm-hmm.
He's gonna get the message across. He's gonna make sure everyone knows that Thrawn's back,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that it's in decent hands for now. Right? Hopefully, we'll see Zeb jump in the mix. But
Right.
if we got the incredible scene with C-3PO in episode, was it 7? Right, the second to last episode,
Mm-hmm.
where
Mm-hmm.
we get mention of Leia. He's bringing the message and getting Hera off the hook for some stuff, and I think that's like some classic Rebel stuff right there. So I think maybe there's a part of them that's thinking like, hey, Ezra's back. Look at him. He's one with the Force. He's doing really, really well.
Right.
And he'll take care of that part for us, just enough time for us to regroup, figure out what we need to do, and come back more strong.
Mm-hmm.
It is scary because
Yeah.
they end up back at like the witch's spot with a seemingly what we all assume is an army of the undead
Mm-hmm.
that could work with Thrawn to take over all this stuff and smash. I don't know. Not so much a huge complaint for me.
Okay. And
But
then
but then there's a part of me that's like, are you gonna spend half of next season on this freaking planet? Because
yeah.
I want to get out of here.
Yeah,
Like, let's
exactly.
go.
Like let's hope there's another season. Let's hope they address it. I don't know, like maybe 1 or 2 episodes of Mandalorian season 4 will be let's check in our friends over in
Oh,
Ahsoka,
sure. Yeah,
you
I mean,
know.
they probably will.
Um and then the
Meanwhile,
last
I'm prettier.
can you imagine a Clone Wars style narration? Meanwhile, back on planet Peridia, Ahsoka and
Ahsoka and Sabine
Sabine.
Wren.
2 Jedi. No, okay. So to that point, it doesn't. I mean, it doesn't seem to have bothered you, but yeah, there was a criticism that this was basically Rebels season 6, because it doesn't really focus on Ahsoka entirely. And
Right.
again, not a big complaint, not a big deal for you.
No, yeah, no. Rebel season 6, Rebel season 7, more of these Rebels, man. I'm I'm happy to be back in this world because I loved Rebels. So if
Fair
this is
enough.
just a
Fair enough.
continuation of that, but you gotta call it something different,
Yeah,
fine. It's fine.
sure. Just to get people to tune in, I guess. I
Yeah.
don't know. All I know is that roughly 10 years ago, and this is shocking to even me, like I had to
Oh
look it up
God.
before we
Oh
were started.
God. Here we
10 years
go.
ago, on a show called Parks and Recreation, which we've discussed before. The gentleman played by Patton Oswalt stands in front of City Hall
Filibuster.
and does a filibuster describing how he would have episode 7 go. And shockingly, a lot of what he described actually happened. Where the
Glove gauntlet of Boba Fett. The maw of the Sarlacc pit.
You know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yes,
and I just happened
well.
to think of it and watch it, like the extended cut, just before we started recording. And I'm just like, he called a lot of this stuff with just the Marvel stuff hasn't crossed over. But when Ahsoka said they're going to a faraway galaxy, I legit thought they were coming to Earth. Like, this is about to happen.
Yeah. And right in there is a cross like Marvel stuff and Star Wars stuff, and I think this was before Disney bought everything. So
No,
like,
they had just bought it. They announced that they were going to make
Okay.
episode 7, and that's where he was like riffing off of that. But I was just like, God dang, Patton, geez, like, did they hire you, or did they just take notes? You were just riffing, and it just, man, 10 years ago, I looked it up, April 2013.
Oh my
So,
gosh.
yeah, wow, what
Good
a
stuff. Well, it's
an
interesting
age we
too
live
because
in.
like it's funny that you mentioned Parks and Rec because I've been rewatching it again for like the, I don't know, 50th time.
Sure.
And I think a lot of like that last season does time jumps in the last like couple episodes of like
Yeah.
future, and a lot of that future I think happens in like 2023.
Yeah.
No, I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, that's this year. Okay,
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, and then the series finale does several jumps into the future,
Yeah.
like the future. But yeah. Anyway, it was just on my mind, and I knew we were going to talk about this, and that's was just like, can you believe this actually came to pass? This Boba Fett show, this Rebels show, the Ahsoka, like.
So what are we getting next? Are we getting a Mandalorian season 4
I
then?
believe it's supposed to be Skeleton Crew, and I know very little
Okay.
about it, but I could have sworn I saw a headline where it said Skeleton Crew's plot may tip off where Ahsoka season 2 could be going. But yeah, I haven't heard anything about the production nor the release of Mando season 4. And also we might need to look it up. Oh, let's look it up now. Like the Dave Filoni movie.
I would imagine all of the what's happening in the Mandoverse and the Bo-Katan, and this will all culminate in that movie. Which, hey, I'm into it. I'm very much into that idea. I mean, I wasn't a huge fan of Boba Fett, and I think the best episodes of Boba Fett are the episodes without Boba Fett in it. So I mean, let's be real.
All I know is that this is great Star Wars, but now that I think about it, we haven't had a proper Star Wars movie for damn near 4 years now, and I don't necessarily hate that. I think that's a good place to be in right now, even though it's a little bit kind of like all over the place. But we'll see. We will see, won't we?
So what's Skeleton Crew about then? I know Jude Law's in it.
Right.
Which is that's a heck of a get. That's pretty cool.
According to Wikipedia, the Star Wars Skeleton Crew is an upcoming live-action American television series created by John Watts and Christopher Ford for Disney Plus. It's taking place at the same time frame as Mando, and it tells a coming-of-age story, is all it says.
Oh, it says it right here. I'm on Game Rant that says it's a set to captivate fans with a thrilling adventure featuring 4 kids in a strange and mysterious galaxy reminiscent of family films like E.T. and the Goonies.
So yeah, not Ahsoka.
Right. Yeah. But takes place in conjunction with at the same time. Interesting. Yeah. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so
we'll see.
Sure.
Yeah, overall high praise for Ahsoka. Yeah, I think some of the stuff I was reading, a lot of people cooled on it real quick after it. I'm still on a high. That 5th episode with Anakin is peak Star Wars. got me all in the feels, and even that trickled into he returns in episode 7 as a training as a training program, which is really really nice touch. And then of course in the final season of in the final episode as a force ghost, which was just like, oh, what a send off, what a proper earned send off for that character. So good on you, Dave Filoni, and the writers of the show for doing my boy Anakin right.
Exactly. Look forward to whatever comes next. Let's go.
Yeah. And what comes next too, like we said, right? We got a couple movies that are coming out here in the next couple weeks that we're gonna watch, and then we both have downloaded and purchased Marvel's Spider-Man 2, so you can
Oh
absolutely
yeah.
expect our thoughts on that game. I am so very excited to play
Yeah.
through that, and then we'll talk about it a little bit on the podcast in chunks as we work through that game for sure.
For sure. Just because, like, yeah, I'm definitely going to carve time out of my schedule to try to get some of that done. And it's just what a year for Spider-Man between Across the Spider-Verse and this, and theoretically what should have been Beyond the Spider-Verse, but we'll see if that
Oh,
ever
that's right.
comes
Yeah.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah, but man,
Very cool.
that we're eating good as Spider-Man fans this
Yes.
year. So
Yeah, we definitely are. You can listen to all of our back episodes of the Pop Chart podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, all the normal players there. And you can watch us at youtube.com/ at the Pop Chart podcast. That is it for our show for this week. Thanks for joining us.
yeah, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We'll see you next week. And remember, don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened.